Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. I want to do a video today talking about inflation. What it does, what it aims to do, and how it falls short. So first of all, what is inflation? Inflation is actually an increase in the circulation of currency in the economic system. When your government prints money, or the banks fractionally reserve new money into existence, the inflation is occurring. And the intended function of this inflation is to make money easier to access so that investors can invest and the economy can grow, hopefully in a long-term way that will last beyond the initial purchase. So the bank wants to incentivize savers to spend their money and hopefully buy productive means that will grow, that will produce an increase in the gross domestic product of your nation. That might look like a farmer investing some savings to buy a better tractor that will produce more yield from their farm, or it might look like a company that spends some of its capital to buy a second business that expands operations and again increases the gross domestic product of the nation. But it often doesn't do those things. That's what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't always do those things. In fact, sometimes and many times, especially when the economy looks uncertain and the nation is the future prospects of the nation are questionable, businesses will refrain from that type of reinvesting of the capital, and they'll just buy like speculative tools like stocks and bonds. And that's what the government does, so you can see why they would do it. So when the U.S. government sells bonds to the Federal Reserve to create money, they prop up the bond market. So of course, you can get in on that too. And the same happens with stocks, and you can take advantage of the bubble they're creating, and people do. So, but that's speculative, and it's not long lasting, and it only has an initial benefit to the investor, not to the GDP of the country long term. And so inflation sets out to do one thing and does another. But more importantly and more concerning is that what it isn't, there's another thing inflation does that no one talks about, or few talk about. Inflation is a tax on the average saver. So when you save $10,000 in your bank account that you worked for years and you're trying to plan for your retirement and be prudent, 3% annual inflation, which the Consumer Price Index suggests is about average, means that $10,000 you put away today is actually going to be worth 3% less next year. Across 10 years, you're talking about 30% reduction in your savings due to government-sanctioned, federally central bank planned inflation. But then the problem is inflation gets out of control sometimes, and the same tools that lead to nominal 2 to 3% inflation can lead to surprise hyperinflation. It's happened before, it will happen again. Banks don't always have complete control over what they're doing. They monkey with the dials and they hope for a specific outcome, but they don't always get the outcome they hope and expect. And so hyperinflation can occur suddenly and unexpectedly, despite a central bank's best intentions. But even worse than that, yes, inflation taxes your savings, but through the asset bubbles that inflation creates through real estate and stocks and bonds, it creates other taxations, like on the form of capital gains taxes that you're going to be hit with as your assets appreciate, or there's others, but I can't think of them right off the top of my head. But suffice it to say, inflation necessarily hurts the average person. Less so the poor man, less so the really rich man, because the very poor man has no savings to be diminished, and the very rich person can stand firm through these waves of inflation until deflation returns, and then they can make maximum use of their capital. But the average person, the middle class, gets slaughtered because they can't wait till deflation comes. They have to buy, and their wealth gets diminished. Inflation is terrible. It's being used. It's being misused. It's being abused. It's leading to a what looks like a pyramid scheme in the fiat dollar global currency, and it's gonna pop, and we're gonna see serious deflation. Get ahead of it, educate yourself, seek knowledge through YouTube and reading books, and also buy bullion, buy crypto, buy Bitcoin. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Also find me on Steam at Infidel1258. I did a blog today about this exact topic, but I went into a lot more detail about the failures of inflation. One last point I'll leave you with Ron Paul. Ron Paul said, if printing money created wealth, there would be no poverty. But of course, printing money does not create wealth. It creates zeros and ones. That does not alleviate poverty. Thank you so much, guys. Have an awesome day. Like and subscribe. Bye for now.